I think some people sometimes can think that certain people will get emotionally abused, like vulnerable people that are in a vulnerable state, which is sometimes true, and emotional abusers will attack people or will look for people that seem more vulnerable. But because of the way it works, you can often feel like you're in a very secure relationship for many months, and you can get love bombed and feel like you are in a loving relationship, and then it will slip in slowly over time.
Welcome to Platform Z, or Z, whichever you prefer. Join me, Noah Lennon, as I speak with my generation about a range of topics and themes in the present day. Hi, thank you for tuning in to the 6th episode of Platform Z Season 2. Today I'm speaking with a new friend of mine who is an excellent actress and writer. She's a 2020 graduate of Sylvia Young Theatre School, as well as a 2022 graduate of Arts Educational Schools, also known as ArtsEd, and is on the verge of becoming a 2026 graduate of the Manchester School of Theatre with a BA Honours degree in acting. Her debut play, Little Deaths, is currently being produced by Hazelwing Theatre Company for a UK tour across July, which I happen to be performing in. She's also a trained singer and dancer and was recently shortlisted for the Spotlight Prize 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Surrey's very own, the driven, perceptive, and high-spirited soul that is Isabelle Palmer.
Yay! That was great. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, as you may have seen from the title, today's episode is on emotional abuse and coercive control. I'm aware that this is a very sensitive topic, so if you don't want to hear about it, please either avoid listening to this episode now or proceed with caution. We will not be delving into any personal experiences during this conversation. To begin, Izzy, would you like to break down to the listeners what emotional abuse is, alongside what coercive control is, and how they differ from one another?
Absolutely. They are really closely related and they sort of overlap, but they're both forms of psychological domestic abuse. Emotional abuse are actions that harm a person's self-worth or mental well-being. So that's something like constant criticism, name-calling, gaslighting, silent treatment. And coercive control is a strategic pattern of behaviour used to dominate, isolate, and strip away a person's freedom and autonomy. It's all inherently about power, and emotional abuse is like the main tactic to maintain that control. So it's emotional abuse is sort of like off that branch of coercive control.
This is a self-promotional break.
Hey again, another one, I know, but our first performance of Little Deaths is this Sunday, guys. The Lion and Unicorn Theatre, Kentish Town, 7:30 p.m. It's under 90 minutes, we're getting close now. This is very exciting. Londoners, please come along and support us if you can. A lot of people have worked really hard on this show, including myself and Izzy, of course, so it would mean the world to have you all there. This is also the only London show that I'm doing of the production, as I'm sharing the role with 2 other actors, so don't miss out. Tickets linked in the description below. Thank you, hope to see you there. Bye!
Thank you for clarifying that. It's really important that people know there's a difference between the two. Yeah, and of course, we're talking about this because you personally have experienced this. We won't go into any of that, but we're not talking just about emotional abuse and coercive control in this episode. We're talking about the play that was written from your potential experiences with this. So
Yes.
would you like to explain what Little Deaths, your original debut play, is about?
Absolutely. So I think I was interested in creating a piece that allowed the audience to experience the feelings that victims of emotional abuse often feel after leaving a relationship or when they begin to recognize something's wrong. And that's why the play is constructed through she's memories, and it's a non-linear chronology, because I wanted to reflect how memories come to us in real life. Like, they don't happen in order. They don't happen like in an order that makes sense. They may get triggered by a smell or a place or someone saying a specific thing. And we also can't control them. And I think that's another thing I wanted to explore through the writing and the thematics, is like, how can I make the audience feel out of control, but not too much that it isolates them, but have that sense of eeriness and that sense of feeling like something's not right, but in a more nuanced way rather than in a very direct way. In terms of the plot, it's a four-hander. So we've got she, who's the protagonist of the play, Jack, who is her boyfriend, and then her friends Carrie and Rachel. Rachel is quite dry and self-assured. She finds it quite difficult to understand why her friend won't just leave Jack if she's not happy. And then Carrie, on the flip side, is more of a maternal figure, but she's very bright and warm, isn't afraid to make fun of herself. And I really wanted those two characters to kind of reflect what she wishes she was. So I think she has, lost her sense of self and lost autonomy over her personality. So her two friends have those traits that she kind of wishes she has herself. Yeah.
Amazing. And it's a really fantastic text, guys. Yeah, I can't wait for you to hopefully see it and then in the future maybe read it in a book. Yeah,
That would
please.
be amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so what was your writing process like, Izzy? How did you come to write this play?
So it initially began because I was trying to find a showcase monologue in my third year, and this was about in like September, because we started very early, like looking at our materials that we were going to use. And I really struggled to find something that I felt like I connected to, something that I felt. I think monologues are always difficult. They sometimes feel very artificial and they don't feel very active. They can often be like, oh, remember when this thing happened? We were walking down the road, and they don't feel kind of rooted in the present. So because I struggled, I thought, why not write my own? So I wrote a monologue about a feeling that I've experienced quite a lot as someone who's very forgetful. When I receive a gift from somebody I love, and my instant thought is I'm going to lose it, and that often overrides the feeling of gratefulness that I should feel because I'm immediately thinking about all the ways that I could lose it, and that as much as I try not to lose it, I probably will end up losing it. And then I kind of put that in the context of being proposed to or being given a ring and thinking maybe it's a proposal, not sure. So I wrote that monologue and I brought it into class, and our director of our showcase encouraged me to write more. And she said that she really liked the monologue. She said that I should do it for showcase, but also she said that I should think about how it could develop further. And I think it often is, the encouragement of people around you that can help you take that step to write something, because it is a very vulnerable thing to do. So then when I was thinking about creating a piece around that monologue, I started to think about other experiences I'd or other feelings I felt in a relationship. And obviously the most prevalent one I've had is when I was 16 until I was 20. And I think it's so interesting that, your first relationship, especially if it's at a young age, it shapes you so much, and often not in a good way. And the initial writing process was very easy, because as soon as I had that idea, I kind of ran with it, and I wrote a lot of scenes in isolation. Some things that had happened to me, or like variations of in different contexts. And then I sort of figured out how they'd all fitted around each other, which worked really well for the structure of this play because it is memory. So it didn't really matter about it making sense in timeline. And then I saw a post on Hazelwing's Instagram saying that they were looking for 15-minute plays to put into a scratch night. And I just thought, I think at that point, I went into my third year of drama school trying to say yes more and being a bit more like open to experiences and kind of leaning forward in life in general. So I submitted it. I think it was more for me just taking that step to submit it was enough. I didn't really care whether it would get chosen or not. But then it got picked, and it went to the King's Arms in Salford with, I think it was 5 other plays. And it got a really good response, and a lot of people said that they unfortunately related to the topics and some of the things that happened in the contents of the 15 minutes. And then Dion, the co-founder of Hazelwing, asked me if I wanted if I would be interested in writing a full version of it. And that's when it became a bit harder to write, because I think once writing has a more of a responsibility, you've got a deadline, you've got people, to impress, so you've got people you want to impress, it becomes more difficult to write. You start thinking about, oh, is this going to read well, or is this something that is going to be easy to direct, and all those kind of things. But then you have to keep reminding yourself why you wrote it in the first place and what the overall goal was for the project, which for me was to write a play that reflected the nuances of emotional abuse and the really tiny little signs that kind of hide in the shadows that people don't often notice.
Wow, that's so interesting to hear. And the title, how did you come up
Yes.
with the title?
So when I wrote the 15-minute piece and I was going to submit it to Hazelwing, I realized obviously I needed a name for it. And I was like, oh God, I don't know what to name it. And one of the scenes in the 15-minute version was the scene, which if you come watch it, you'll see, is Rachel and she outside the smoking area of a club. And they're speaking, they're both quite drunk. She is speaking, kind of word vomiting, if you will, about her feelings towards Jack, how he makes her feel. And one of the things that gets brought up is a feeling that she feels like a little death in her stomach, is like how she feels, the anxiety she feels like dying a little in her stomach. That's how she describes it. And Rachel says that little death means orgasm in French. And when I was going through to find a name, I was looking at that section and I thought, first of all, Little Death sounds like quite a good play title, what it did to me. But secondly, the fact that she describes this feeling of anxiety as little deaths, and then Rachel then tells her that it means orgasm, and it has this double meaning. I think it almost, to me, reflected what emotional abuse can feel like for people when they explain how they feel, and then their emotional abuser or the person that is inflicting, the emotional abuse will twist it and will reframe their ideas of things. So you almost lose autonomy over your own thoughts and your own opinions of things. So that was one of the reasons, but also because I think every scene in the play is sort of like a little death of she's glorified version of Jack. So like throughout the play, her feelings towards Jack change, and I think they slowly die as she realizes who he really is. So lots of different reasons, but I think those are the main ones. Yeah.
It's a great title. I love it. And I'm interested, Izzy, what were the other influences or maybe references that you used to write the play?
So there is a book that I read, I think it was in the summer before third year, so not long before I wrote the piece. It's called The Collector by John Fowles. And it's about a young man who kidnaps a very intelligent, rich young woman. Her name's Miranda. And I found it really interesting reading a book where the kidnapper was the same age as the woman, and sort of the dynamic of the fact that they were very similar ages was interesting to me. But also because it's formatted through diary entries. So half of the book is written from the kidnapper's perspective, and then the latter half of the book is written from the Miranda's perspective. So I took a lot of inspiration from Miranda's description of isolation and also her feelings, that Stockholm syndrome thing of where initially she's disgusted by this man and she thinks he's an awful, awful human being. But as time goes on, sort of as a survival mechanism, she begins to find him endearing. He's from a working class background and he's hasn't had a lot of education, which is also an interesting dynamic in the book about social class and things. But she begins to try and teach him things, teach him how to speak properly, in quotation marks, speak properly, and teaches him about artists and about all these things, even though despite the fact that he's doing this awful thing to her, she for some reason feels this need to help him. So I think I took a lot of inspiration from that, because I think it really describes that feeling of being stuck in something and finding ways to cope. And then there's also a series on Netflix called The Maid. Very good TV series. Really recommend everyone to watch it. It's based on a book. Margaret Qualley is the lead in it, and she plays Alex, who's a single mother with a young daughter. I think she's about 3 or 4. And it's basically about her. She lives in a trailer with her emotionally abusive boyfriend, and she leaves, and it's sort of her journey in accepting the fact that her boyfriend is emotionally abusive. What I think the series does really well is it shows the denial stage. Like for half of the series, she's very much in denial of the fact that she's going through anything that's wrong. when she's looking for jobs at the job centre at the beginning, the woman asks her, like, are you being abused? And she says, no, he's not hit me. And, there's nothing wrong. And I think that really shows the lack of knowledge and coverage in society about different forms of abuse. A lot of the time, people don't. I think now it's much, much better, but people would obviously not take emotional abuse seriously. In the eyes of the law, it wasn't seen as a crime for a very long time. So that was a big inspiration for me. And then the last thing, so I'm speaking a lot. The last thing is my favorite contemporary play called The Almighty Sometimes by Kendall Fever. She's an Australian playwright. The play is about a young teenage girl who has been on medication for mental illness ever since she was very, very young. And she suddenly finds all of these poems and short stories she'd written when she was a child before she was put on medication. And she suddenly decides that the reason that she can't write anymore and the reason that she can't be creative is because of her medication. So she comes off it. And it's basically how that affects her relationship with her mum and her boyfriend and her friends. So I think I took a lot of inspiration from that in the sense of how someone going through something extremely difficult has a knock-on effect to the other people in their life. I would really recommend reading that. It's on Drama Online, so I would recommend reading that play. Structurally, it's very interesting. There's bits where between the naturalistic scenes, a character will come on and read one of the poems or one of the short stories that she wrote when she was a child. And there's a lot of direct address, which, again, if you come see the play, there's a little bit of direct address in Little Deaths as well. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So much that you just gave there. Yeah, I need to add all of that to my list.
Yeah, I mean, you should. I would recommend reading/watching all three. Yeah.
And we'll link everything in the description, guys, so you can check it out there. Moving towards the end now, Izzy, what do you want audiences to take away from Little Deaths?
It's always difficult with that question because I think what I love about theatre personally, why I love watching theatre so much and film and any form of media, books, plays, TV series, paintings, anything, is that, the creator can say, this is what I want people to take away from it, but people will always take away what they want to. After you've created something, you put it out there, you kind of lose control of that and it becomes everybody else's decision to take from it what they will. But my hope is that people can go through the experience in some way of what it feels like to come to terms with the fact that you're in an emotionally abusive relationship in real time, so that they experience that feeling as opposed to feeling like they're just being preached. I don't want the audience to feel like they're being preached to, I think is my main thing. And I want it to raise awareness, of course, but I also want the audience to laugh, hopefully. And I also would like them to feel endearment towards the characters, maybe even Jack sometimes, because I think that's also important to me, that Jack isn't the villain of the story, because then that makes it about him and it's not about him. But yeah, I think to raise awareness and for people to feel like they've learned something ultimately.
Yeah, it's a tricky question to answer, to be honest, because, yeah, like you said, everyone will take something else away. Yeah, add their own meaning to it. Yeah.
Which is great. I think that's the thing that it excites me the most. Is that someone might go, I thought that this scene made me think of this, and I'll go, oh my god, I didn't write it for that purpose, but that's really great that that's what you've taken from it. I've very luckily been allowed to be in the rehearsal process with Noah and the other actors, and it's so great to see them get the scenes on their feet and for them to say, this is what I think about the character, and I think the character is meaning this by this line. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I didn't write it that way, but that makes so much sense, and it adds so much more richness and colour to the piece.
Yeah, we're really lucky to have you in the rehearsal process. For me, especially as an actor, and I'm sure you can chip in here, but I feel like I'm always in service to the writer when it comes to a play. Especially in theatre, dialogue is so important that you really have to carry the story, carry the themes, and carry all of the weight of those words. So thank you for being so involved as well.
I'm very thankful to be, yeah. I know what you mean about being in service to the writer. It's a thing where I can be bad at paraphrasing as an actor. It is obviously important to serve the text as much as you can. But also what's great is that sometimes someone will paraphrase, but then it will sound better. And then it's like, oh, say it that way, actually. It's great that way. But obviously there are some bits where you go, it needs to be said this way with these words. But writers can make mistakes too, which is what I'm learning, because that's difficult.
Mm.
Because I think even as an actor, I'm quite a perfectionist. I can be hard on myself. Therefore, as a writer as well, I think I can be as well. But you've got to give yourself some grace, because in the same way that an actor can mess up their line, or a director can, give a note that doesn't make sense, a writer can get a name wrong. Maybe that's allowed.
And thank you for being so open about it as well. Maybe other writers would be more rigid and stick to the script being said in a certain way, but you've been so fluid in a really great way of, just open to change and open to things being modified.
Thank you.
And it's an amazing script, guys. I can't wait for you to...
It's so good, guys.
I hope we're allowed to say that. I think we are.
Yeah, I think we can. And if you don't believe us, then you can come watch it, and then you can make your own mind up.
There you go. Now to go full circle back to our topic on emotional abuse and coercive control, what is your message to those who are undergoing emotional abuse and coercive control, man or woman, or however you identify? What is your message to those people, Izzy?
I think, unfortunately, a lot of people who are in the midst of that probably don't know. That is the really scary thing about emotional abuse, is that, first of all, I should have said this at the beginning, but emotional abuse obviously looks very different in different circumstances. There are different, as we were talking about, like coercive control, it can be more taking away your ability to have control over your finances, or taking away your phone, or having access to your phone, and all those kind of things. But then it can also look like, manipulation and belittling, gaslighting, and it can look so different, which is why also it's very difficult to identify for some people if that is happening to them. So what I would say is that if you feel like it's happening, it's probably most definitely is happening. If you have that inkling that something is wrong, listen to your gut instinct. I mean, I don't want to say that this is the right advice, because obviously I'm not qualified, but what I would say is that in that situation, it's important to speak to someone you trust, you're very close to. And I wouldn't speak to the person you think is doing it to you. I wouldn't go to them and say, I think this is happening. That won't go well. They'll most likely convince you that that's not happening, and that will not be helpful. Very important to seek help. A therapist if you can. It's difficult to afford a therapist, but you can always look on the NHS, and there are a lot of good, I'm sure we can tag some below the episode, but there are a lot of good charities and websites that can help you with emotional abuse and how to seek help. It can happen to anyone, and I think that's why I called the protagonist of the play she, because I think some people sometimes can think that certain people will get emotionally abused, like vulnerable people that are in a vulnerable state, which is sometimes true, and emotional abusers will attack people, or will look for people that seem more vulnerable. But because of the way it works, you can often feel like you're in a very secure relationship for many months, and you can get love bombed and feel like you are in a loving relationship, and then it will slip in slowly over time. People that do that are very intelligent people, in a disgusting intelligent way, not in like, that's not me praising them, but you see what I'm saying. So yes, if you feel like something's wrong, it's wrong, and trust your instincts and your gut, and seek help, and also give yourself grace, especially if you've left a relationship that you feel like was emotionally abusive or manipulative, or narcissistic abuse, or any of those things. It's going to take you a long time to heal from that. You will get triggered. Things will come up for you, even years down the line. I mean, for me, occasionally things will come up and it will upset me, and that's okay. And also, the main thing that's very important is that you will often try and convince yourself that you're making it up, or it wasn't true, or it didn't happen. Every time you have that thought, you've got to remind yourself that it did happen, and you are valid for the way you feel.
Oh, so well said. That's really, really useful advice for so many, I'm sure. We'll link those organizations and charities in the description below. And I think it is the fact that you're not alone. It's so simple, but in a relationship, it's quite easy to feel like it's just you and that other person, and you're in your own sort of world. But actually understanding that there's more than just your partner, And you really should lean into those around you if you can, and you'll get through it. Whatever's going on, it's temporary, and there's always going to be a way out. Let's move on to the Platform Z quickfire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What was the most recent thing that inspired you?
The Bear, the TV series, The Bear.
Yeah, new season coming soon.
Yeah,
So
excited.
I'll be watching.
Guys, The Bear Season 5 has been out since the 26th of June. This is how you know I just do not watch TV. I'm not up to date.
What is your goal for this month?
To be less hard on myself. Yep.
What's one bad habit that you need to get rid of?
Biting my nails.
That's mine too, to be honest.
Is it? Yeah.
What does joy look like to you?
I was talking about this with my friends last night because I was trying to think, God, what does joy look like to me? And I think the thing I'm going to say is that when I'm on my own and I'm out in a public space and I see other human beings with each other sharing a moment that feels very personal and specific to them, and it kind of almost feels like they don't even notice anyone else around them and they're just having a little moment to themselves. I find that very heartwarming.
I love that. When have you felt the most love?
I feel the most love when somebody I love, someone I care about, remembers something that I've told them or something very specific that they didn't have to remember, and they bring it up in conversation again, or they get me something that is to do with that thing. I think overall, just like feeling listened to. I think in this day and age, it's difficult to listen to each other, and often we forget to listen to each other. So when people do listen, I respect that.
So true. Final question. What's the one thing you'd change in today's society?
Okay, this is such a difficult one because obviously there are so many things I would change, and I think a lot of people would change. There's a lot of awful things happening in the world, a lot of injustice. But I do think just listening to each other in general, I really do believe that I think and this is not me saying that I'm good at it either, I think I could listen more in terms of like, listening when you're having a conversation with someone, but also just listening in more of a general sense of like in life. Just being more perceptive and aware of each other. Everyone is always on their phones a lot of the time, or if they're not on their phones, they're calling someone, or if they're not doing that, they're thinking about a meme they've seen, or everything is very isolating today. And not very often that I feel that I really connect with people on a daily basis, like people that I don't know, like strangers. And when that does happen, it's such a joy and it's so lovely when you really feel like you've connected with someone and you've properly, acknowledged each other's existence. I think we could all do that a bit more.
That's an amazing one. I love that. Just like that, we're at the end of another episode. Thank you so much, Izzy.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
The first thing I want to say is this is a really special piece. The topics that we cover in this production are really necessary. It's a female story, a female protagonist, written by a female playwright. And there are some amazing female playwrights like Chloe Moss, Lucy Kirkwood, Ella Hickson. There's some
so
amazing playwrights, but we need more. We always need more. And also a huge shout out to Dion Hunter, Naomi Ritchie, Jess Hasted at Hazelwing Theatre, a female-led theatre company in Manchester.
Also,
can I say one more thing, Izzy?
Yes.
And then you come in. Sorry. I just want to say thank you for writing this story. We need more stories like this. And it's an amazing, brave thing that you've done. And writing a play is really hard. So thank you for writing this. And we're really lucky. Thank you.
Okay. I think this play should be seen by everyone. And of course, I'd say that because I want everyone to buy tickets. But I do also think that it's beneficial that everyone of all ages come see this play.
Absolutely. Absolutely a human story that everyone should come and watch because it's such an important issue. Izzy, please tell the listeners where they can find you, what you've got going on, what you've got coming up.
So my Instagram is Izzy Amelia Palmer, if you want to follow me on there. I've got the tickets for Little Deaths in my bio. We're going to 6 amazing venues. It's going to be great in the UK, London, Liverpool, Manchester.
And Birmingham. Big up Birmingham.
In terms of things I've got coming up, I'm doing a Shakespeare Promenade performance in August, Walk the Bard. It's going to be at Temple Gardens. It's open for everyone. It's a really fun thing. You get free Prosecco when you walk around. I'm going to be playing Juliet out the balcony. Go see that. That will be on my Instagram too if you want to come see that. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, on that note, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.